Welcome back to the channel, y'all, and today I'm very excited to do our first build for Final Fantasy Tactics. Now, the Ivalice Chronicles is a remastered version of the original game, but the build that we discuss here in this video is going to be applicable to that remastered version. And some of the goals for this build is, it needs to be up and running at around Chapter 2, and then from that point, it needs to be viable for the rest of the game. And one last thing before we get to the build, the gameplay that you're going to see is from the PS1 original version, so there's going to be some translation discrepancies. I'll do my best to point out the War of the Lions translation, but with that out of the way, let's get started. And the first job and build we're going to discuss is the Knight, which is one of my favorite jobs in the entire game. So first up, how do you unlock the Knight? Well, you only need to be a level 2 Squire. Now, instead of just going straight to Knight and maxing out all of its abilities, we're actually only going to stick around with it for a little bit because we want to branch out to the other jobs and grab all their skills and abilities, so then we can just end on the Knight and play the rest of the game as this job with the build up and running. Alright, so let's go over the basics of the Knight. It's a frontline brawler where its stat growth focuses on HP and attack power. Its job skills are known as Arts of War, and what they can do is break every piece of equipment on an enemy unless they have the support ability Safeguard. Knights can also nuke an enemy's stats, basically rendering them useless. They do have a reaction ability in the form of Parry, and this is decent but not great. And then their other support abilities they can unlock really will benefit other jobs, not necessarily the Knight. Now, one of the most slept on and best features of the Knight are their ability to equip Knight Swords, which are the best weapons in the game in my opinion. And also their armor they can equip, really good as well. Overall, essentially they are the perfect frontline brawler. They can dish out a lot of damage and have a really easy time staying alive against a lot of damage. Now, when it comes to your secondary job for a Knight, I would go with either Squire, Chemist, or Monk. Now let's break down why. For Squire, their accumulate or focus ability just adds +1 to their attack power, which basically allows them to buff themselves until you get up and close to an enemy to start doing damage. And when it comes to Chemist, because they have access to items like Potion and Phoenix Downs, the Knight is already very tanky. So having them as kind of a pocket healer for your other allies is never a bad idea, especially if you don't have somebody who's already a dedicated Chemist or White Mage. Now the Monk job, this is probably what I would recommend to have alongside your Knight, and that's because the Monk has access to a self-heal, as well as being able to heal your allies next to you with Chakra, but they also have a revive if you're on the same elevation, and none of this is costing MP or another resource. They also would then have the ability to use Aura Blast or Wave Fist for a little bit of range damage, and then Earth Slash for a line AoE. So those are the secondary jobs I would recommend. Now when it comes to your reaction ability, I would go with Auto Potion, and Auto Potion is just universally excellent for every job in every build. So when you are hit, you will automatically use your lowest tier of potion to heal yourself. And for a majority of the game, as long as you swap out your potions, like say in Act 2, you get rid of all your regular potions that heal you for 30 and you just stash up on high potions which heal you for 70, a majority of enemies can't hit that hard. So when they strike you, you're actually going to get a net heal out of it instead of actually taking any damage. And then it gets even better when you swap out your high potions for X potions, which are going to heal you for 150. So Auto Potion as your reaction here, this is the one I most recommend, but it's not the only option. If you want to lean more towards having a offensive reaction or something that does damage, from the Monk skill line, you can pick up First Strike or Counter. These are both excellent for dishing out damage when somebody is trying to target you in melee range. The only reason I don't recommend this as highly as Auto Potion is because when you're grinding or you're trying to level up your jobs quickly, sometimes you want to stay in encounters longer to again grind. And if you take First Strike or Counter, your character could end up killing the last enemy, thus ending the fight. Which is not a huge deal, but it is like a little pet peeve of mine, because you really can't control when your character will use First Strike or Counter. And the last reaction I want to mention is Critical Heal. So when your character goes into a critical state, their reaction will heal them back to full health. And this is a great survivability reaction. The only thing about it is, if an enemy hits you really hard and you're not in the critical state, you could go from being fine to dead, and that'll essentially skip over the whole critical state. So that would kind of stink. Whereas Auto Potion, anytime you're hit, that's going to proc. So honestly, out of all these reactions, we're kind of splitting hairs. I just like Auto Potion the best. Now, when it comes to your support slot here, really there's only one choice, and that is dual wield that you get from the Ninja job. So not only will you wield 2 swords, and when you attack you'll use both of them, so that dishes out a lot of damage, but your break arts will also have 2 chances to hit. So if you're trying to lower an enemy's attack power, you only need to hit them once, and that enemy's gonna hit like a wet noodle. You hit them twice, they may as well not be in the fight anymore because they can't do any damage. And the same goes for if you're trying to attack their magic power or deplete their MP. I mean, just look what I do to this poor goblin when I hit him twice with break speed. His next turn has dropped like a rock. Now lastly, when it comes to movement, and honestly, Knight does suffer a little bit from their movement, but at Squire, we can pick up move +1, and at Thief, because we have to level up Thief to get to Ninja, we can pick up +2. So those are great options. Now I would say in the late game or the end game, chapter 4, maybe take some time to unlock Time Mage and pick up Teleport, because I highly recommend Teleport for all your characters. I know some people hate it, but I absolutely love it. So just a quick recap and overview on our Knight build here. This is a very tanky character that is going to have plenty of options when it comes to sustainability, either by auto potion or critical heal as their reactions. But if you want to lean more towards that offensive reaction, feel free to do that as well. But your Knight is going to be the best in the front line, where they can take a lot of hits, but also dish out a lot of damage. And kind of the job leveling path I would take is to go directly to Ninja, and then backtrack to Monk, and then end on Knight. And really one of the standout things I don't think Knights get enough credit for are their rend abilities. Because having an action that'll nuke your enemy stats makes a Knight essential when it comes to grinding in Final Fantasy Tactics. Because if you take their attack power all the way down to 1, where they're literally doing 1 damage, and the same goes for their speed, they'll never get a turn, and that means your entire party can just sit there and accumulate or focus farm for as long as you want. And in that situation, you wouldn't have to worry about bringing like a Time Mage or bringing Mustadio with his aim abilities, because those status effects have to be reapplied. Whereas the Knight here, just hit him and you're good to go for the rest of the fight. Alright y'all, that's the video. That is our first build for Final Fantasy Tactics. You can almost consider this like a countdown series to when the game later launches at the end of the month, but every build that we're going to discuss should be fine in the game, especially on the easy or normal mode. Now, it has yet to be seen how it's going to go on hard mode because nobody's played that yet, but I think it would serve you pretty well there as well. And honestly, I'm just ready to talk about Final Fantasy Tactics, so I think this is a nice form to do that. Now, I do have some final thoughts on Knight. A lot of people dog on it because it is the most common enemy that you fight during the story, but the enemy AI, they really don't build out Knights past just being like just straight that job, whereas we have access to the other jobs, and again, we can kit it out to be an absolute monster. And then the other thing is, your unique characters that you pick up during the story, they have all the same access to the gears that the Knight have, but they have a better like move set or ability set in the form of like holy swords that do just blow the Knight's break arts out of the water. I called it break arts, but I mean arts of war. I'm thinking of like Vagrant Story. But if you compare just Knight to the other generic jobs, it's like A tier, I think. I think it comes down to the ability set and also what they have access to equipment-wise. But anyways, that's enough yapping for me. If you made it this far, thank you very much. If you want to see more Final Fantasy Tactics content and you're not a part of the channel yet, consider joining. And until then, I'll see you next time. Peace and take care.